What did Tony Romo have to say about Dak Prescott?
Yeah, so Tony obviously said, he's very positive about Dak. He says Dak has a bright future ahead of him. And I think the question that I wish I would have asked Romo that I didn't ask him would be, what do you think of the sophomore slump theory about Dak Prescott? Because that's sort of the main, media line out there about Dak. And I got a chance to speak to Wade Wilson, who is Prescott's quarterback coach, and he said, he doesn't buy into the sophomore slump theory, of course, because he's his coach, but because, Dak is now in his second year, he's had all this more experience to learn more. I mean, last year, he didn't even have the offseason. He didn't have the OTAs. He barely had reps in training camp. He was third on that depth chart for most of his offseason. So when you think about it, he's had all this more time with the first team this year. So Wade Wilson has a little bit of a point there that, he has learned so much more, so there really might not be a sophomore slump for Dak.
And it's so different than Romo's own career because he sat behind Vinny Testaverde and then he sat behind Drew Bledsoe. I mean, did he talk about how that start to his career impacted him versus how Dak was really thrown into the fire?
Yeah, he actually had a really good comment about Dak where he said, if he would have had a few more years to learn behind himself, to learn behind Romo, he would have been better off for it. He probably could have learned a lot more from Romo had he had a couple more seasons to pick his brain, because Romo is an amazing football mind. You sit down and ask him one question about the mechanics of throwing a football, and he'll go on for 4 to 5 minutes with an answer without taking a breath. And you're like, oh my goodness, you have so much information.
Yeah, well, we're expecting a lot from him in the broadcast booth, but just going to for a second, what did Dak say that Romo did impart on him? They obviously didn't have a lot of time together. It was a little awkward because we all knew that Tony would be out on the field playing if he was physically healthy and could, but how was their relationship?
Yeah, Dak had a really interesting specific story. He took us back to week 16. They were playing the Lions. The Cowboys had scored on 2 drives to start the game. And Tony kind of took Dak aside on the sideline and he said, hey, look, if you score on 1 drive, just the opening drive, the defensive coordinator is usually going to stick to their game plan. If you just score on 2, though, they are totally upheaving everything they have. So Dak said that that was something that years from now, 5, 10 years from now in his career, he's going to look back if he's in the same situation and think of Tony Romo.